April 11th, 1945. Dawn cracks like gunfire over the jagged Harz Mountains in central Germany, where the air hangs thick with the acrid bite of cordite and diesel fumes. You're hunkered in the turret of a Sherman tank, part of Colonel William Lovelady's 3rd Armored Division, rumbling toward the shadowed town of Nordhausen. The ground shakes under your treads, kicking up mud and shattered debris from yesterday's artillery barrage. Around you, infantrymen from the 104th Division clutch their M1 Garands, faces smeared with grime, eyes scanning the tree line for any glint of a German sniper's scope. The Wehrmacht's been crumbling, but these hills hide something. Whispers from captured SS guards speak of buried secrets, vast caverns where Hitler's mad dreams take shape. The column halts at a barbed wire perimeter, twisted and torn like the Reich itself. Machine gun nests lie silent, their crews fled or dead. Sergeant Harlan Hank Thompson, a wiry farm boy from Iowa turned tank commander, wipes sweat from his brow despite the chill. "Looks too quiet," he mutters to his driver, Private Eddie Ramirez, whose knuckles whiten on the controls. You can almost feel the tension coiling in your gut, the kind that comes from months of hedgerow hell in Normandy, now pushing deep into the enemy's heart. Artillery thunders in the distance, Allied shells pounding what remains of the Luftwaffe's airfields. But here, the real fight feels underground, in the Earth's belly. As the engineers clip the wire, a low rumble echoes, not from guns, but from within the mountain itself. Lovelady's voice crackles over the radio. "Timberwolf and Spearhead elements, advance with caution. Intel says this is no ordinary depot. Could be booby-trapped to high heaven." The men dismount, boots crunching on gravel strewn with discarded helmets and spent casings. Thompson leads a squad forward, his Thompson submachine gun at the ready. Ironic, that name match, he's always joked. The entrance looms, a massive concrete maw blasted into the Kohnstein Hill, camouflaged with netting and fake foliage, now shredded by wind and war. Gunfire erupts sporadically. Straggling defenders, SS fanatics holed up in pillboxes. A burst from a 50 cal mounted on a half-track silences one nest, the echo reverberating like a death knell. Ramirez revs the Sherman, its 75mm gun swiveling toward shadows. You taste the metallic tang of fear mixed with determination. These boys have seen Omaha Beach, the Bulge, but this feels different. Prisoners taken earlier babble about Wunderwaffen, wonder weapons that could turn the tide. The GIs laugh it off over K-rations. Yeah, right, like they're jet planes that crash more than they fly. But deep down, doubt flickers. What if? The breach team plants charges on a sealed blast door. The explosion rocks the valley, dust billowing like a mushroom cloud in miniature. As the smoke clears, a yawning tunnel stretches into darkness, lit faintly by emergency bulbs. Thompson peers in, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Rails snake into the abyss, railroad tracks, for God's sake, inside a mountain. The air shifts, carrying a stench of oil, sweat, and something fouler, like decay. "Holy hell," whispers a private behind him. "What the Nazis cooking in there?" But as the first boots cross the threshold, a chilling sight stops them cold. Emaciated figures stumbling from the shadows, eyes hollow, striped uniforms hanging like rags. Who are they, and what horrors have they built in this Nazi lair?
The tunnel swallows the light as the first soldiers step inside, boots echoing off the damp concrete like heartbeats in a tomb. Flashlight beams slice through the darkness, revealing a vast underground factory that stretches farther than any man can see. Rows of massive assembly halls carved straight into the mountain, lit by harsh sodium lamps that buzz and flicker like dying stars. The air is thick, heavy with the smell of machine oil, hot metal, and something far worse, the sour stench of fear sweat and human misery. You feel the cold seep through your wool greatcoat as you move forward, the temperature dropping with every step deeper into the conestein. Sergeant Thompson's flashlight catches on the nearest object, a sleek black shape perched on a railcar, its stubby wings and bulbous nose unmistakable. A V-2 rocket. Not a mock-up, the real thing. Fully assembled, paint still fresh, its graphite fins glinting under the lights. Thompson freezes. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, he breathes. That's no propaganda toy. More rockets line the rails, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, standing in silent rows like black iron sentinels. Their warheads are capped, waiting only for fuel and a launch order that will never come. The men fan out, rifles raised, but there's no one left to fight. Only the ghosts remain. In the shadows between the rockets, skeletal prisoners in striped rags shuffle forward, hands raised, eyes wide with terror and relief. One man, a Polish forced laborer whose name tag reads Yusuf, collapses to his knees and weeps openly. He points at the rockets, and then at himself, then at the others behind him. Hundreds, maybe thousands of slave workers who built these monsters. A lieutenant from the 104th Timberwolves, Lieutenant Jimmy Carter, kneels beside Yusuf, speaking broken German and Polish. "How many?" he asks. The man holds up trembling fingers, 10, 20, then just shakes his head. Too many to count. The prisoners had been worked to death building these weapons, starved, beaten, gassed when they slowed. The factory's walls are still scarred with bullet holes where the SS executed the weakest. But the real shock is deeper inside. The squad pushes on, past the V-2 assembly line into a cavernous hangar where the air hums with electricity. There, under tarps and scaffolding, sit sleek silver shapes that make even the hardest veterans stop breathing. Messerschmitt 262 jet fighters, their turbojets still warm, paint schemes half finished. One plane's canopy is open, tools scattered on the floor as if the pilots were yanked away mid-flight. And then the men see the most terrifying thing of all. A smaller, needle-nosed machine hangs from a cradle, its rocket engine pointed down like a spear of fire. The Me-163 Comet, Hitler's rocket-powered interceptor. The thing that could climb to 40,000 feet in seconds, claw the sky, and then plummet back to Earth on a single tank of volatile fuel. One captured Luftwaffe mechanic, still in his grease-stained coveralls, stands nearby, hands in the air. He looks at the comet and then at the GIs and mutters, "Too late, too late." His eyes are hollow, defeated. The realization hits like a shell burst. These aren't prototypes, these are production lines. Thousands of hours, millions of Reichsmarks, rivers of slave blood poured into weapons that could have changed the war if only they'd been finished sooner. But now the Reich is collapsing, and these wonder weapons sit useless, gathering dust in a mountain tomb. Thompson turns to his platoon, voice low. They were betting everything on this, and we just walked in and took it all. A beat of silence. Then someone whispers, "What else is down here?" Because the tunnel keeps going, deeper, darker, colder. And the next chamber promises something even more unthinkable.
Deeper into the mountain, the tunnel widens into a cathedral of steel and concrete, its vaulted ceiling lost in shadow. Your flashlight beam dances across walls lined with blueprints pinned like wallpaper, detailed drawings of V-2 guidance systems, Me-262 engine schematics, even sketches of something called the Silbervogel, a rocket plane meant to bomb New York. The sheer volume hits you like a physical blow, row after row of half-assembled rockets, crates of liquid oxygen tanks, stacks of graphite fins taller than a man. This isn't a workshop, it's an industrial city buried under the earth. Lieutenant Carter's voice cracks as he radios back to command. "Spearhead 6, this is Timberwolf 2. We've got Hundreds of V2s, maybe 1,000. Jets, too. And slaves, thousands of them. Static answers first, then a stunned silence from the other end. Colonel Lovelady himself comes on the line, voice low and urgent. "Confirm that number, Jimmy, and get photos. The brass needs to see this." The men spread out, boots scraping across the oil-slick floor. Private Ramirez, the driver from the Sherman, stares up at a completed ME-262, its twin-jet engines gleaming like black eyes. "They could have won with these," he whispers. "They almost did." A mechanic's wrench still lies where it was dropped, as if the workers were herded out at gunpoint only hours ago. In one corner, a pile of unfinished comets hangs from overhead cranes, their rocket motors dangling like guillotines. Each one carries enough fuel to explode in a fireball that could incinerate a city block. Then the prisoners begin to talk. A gaunt Dutch engineer, Jan van der Meer, steps forward, speaking in halting English. He was a forced laborer here since 1943, dragged from a concentration camp to turn Hitler's fantasies into metal. "They promised us food if we worked faster," he says, voice raw. "We built them rockets that flew to London, jets that could outrun anything in the sky, but we never had enough time or enough men." His eyes flick to the far end of the hall, where a massive door stands half open. The real horror is in the next chamber. Thompson leads the squad forward, Thompson's submachine gun raised. The door opens onto a smaller, darker cavern lit only by red emergency bulbs. The stench is overwhelming, chemicals, sweat, and death. Rows of wooden bunks 4 high line the walls. On the floor lie the bodies of dozens of prisoners who died in the last days, too weak to move. Some still clutch tools, as if they collapsed while working. A single sign in German hangs crookedly, "Mittelbau Dora, work makes free." The irony is sickening. Carter's face hardens. "This is what they paid for these weapons," he says quietly. "Human lives, thousands of them." A young GI beside him turns away and retches. The laughter that once greeted talk of Hitler's wonder weapons dies here, replaced by a cold, burning rage. These aren't just machines, they're monuments to madness, built on bones. But as the soldiers stand in stunned silence, a distant rumble echoes through the tunnels. Artillery, closer now. The Red Army is pushing from the east, the Allies from the west. Time is running out, and somewhere deeper in the mountain, there might be one last secret that could still change everything. The red bulbs flicker overhead, casting long shadows across the bunks and the still forms of the dead. For a long moment, no one speaks. The only sound is the distant thud of artillery, growing closer, like the heartbeat of an approaching storm. Sergeant Thompson lowers his weapon, the barrel trembling slightly. He's seen death before, Omaha Beach, the frozen forests of the Bulge, but this is different. This is deliberate, calculated, industrial murder on a scale that defies comprehension. Lieutenant Carter kneels beside one of the prisoners, a French doctor named Marcel Dubois, who survived by treating the dying. Dubois' voice is barely a whisper. "They worked us until we dropped. Then they replaced us. 20,000 came here. Maybe 5,000 are still alive." He points to the V2s in the next hall. "Every rocket you see cost 100 lives. Every jet 1,000. Carter's jaw tightens. He stands slowly, eyes burning. "Not anymore," he says. "It ends today." Word spreads fast. Radios crackle with urgent reports as more units pour into the complex. Combat photographers from the Signal Corps arrive, their flashbulbs popping like gunfire as they document the assembly lines, the jets, the emaciated survivors. One photographer, Corporal Frank Capra,
no relation to the director, but he jokes about it, captures the moment a GI lifts a skeletal prisoner into his arms, sharing a chocolate bar and a cigarette. The image will make front pages across America, but right now it's just two men in hell trying to remember what humanity feels like. Colonel Lovelady arrives in person, stepping over debris and past the silent rows of V2s. He surveys the Me-262s, the comets, the blueprints. Then he turns to his officers, voice flat and hard. "Gentlemen, Hitler threw everything into these toys. Everything, and it still wasn't enough." He pauses, looking at the prisoners being carried out on stretchers. "We make sure the world knows what this cost." The mood shifts. The initial shock, the stunned silence, gives way to something colder, sharper, resolve. These soldiers came here expecting a fight, maybe a last stand by fanatical SS. Instead, they found proof of the Reich's desperation and depravity. There will be no miracle weapons saving Berlin now, no sudden reversal. The wonder weapons are captured, the factories silent, the slaves freed. The war is not over, but in this mountain, its outcome has been written in steel and blood. Engineers from the U.S. Army Ordnance Department begin tagging the aircraft and rockets for study. Some will be crated and shipped to Wright Field in Ohio. Others will fly again under American colors. The Me-262 will become the blueprint for a new generation of jets. The V-2 will launch men to the moon. But that's years away. Right now, the only thing that matters is getting the survivors out and pushing on. As the sun sets over the Harz Mountains, the first ambulances roll away, carrying the living to field hospitals. Behind them, the tunnels of Mittelwerk stand open like a wound. The men of the 3rd Armored and 104th Infantry climb back into their tanks and half-tracks, faces grim. Berlin is only days away now, and when they reach it, they will carry the memory of this place with them, a memory that steels their resolve and removes any last shred of doubt. Hitler's wonder weapons didn't save him. They only proved how far he was willing to go and how completely he failed.